My next lessons learned is that most consulting firms also don't know a whole lot about Infor OS. So I'm not faulting any of them. Actually, I should say I'm not faulting any of us. This is a 7-year-old product that has not yet gained ground in the US. So we haven't needed to know much about it. The vendor-sponsored events that I've attended brush the surface of Infor OS, and I had hopes of some deep dives into the product. We never quite got deep into Infor OS during those sessions. So I hope to dive deeper into Infor OS during this presentation and to allow some time at the end for a Q&A. In planning this out, I realized a deep dive on a presentation with such a broad audience may not actually be possible, or at least not as productive as I'd like. Now, I'll explain why. Actually, I'll explain why in a minute. Let me go over something else first. While I've done as much research as I've been able to prior to the session, and I've installed and done some configuration of Infor OS several times, I've only brushed the surface of Infor OS. With hundreds of pages of documentation, conflicting information from various sources, and a product that can do so much, I'm left sometimes with more questions than answers. One of our consultants has attended the Tech Ed sessions on Infor OS in both Europe and in the US, and while working on projects has found himself pretty much confined to the needs of the project. That's how most consultants work, most consulting firms work. You end up with a person who knows a lot about a product, but pulled into a project that focuses on just one area. In this area here, for that one person I refer to as the burst component of the product. So with all of the new and upgraded products from Infor and the need to meet this never-ending demands to move forward, and the confusion of the cloud versus CloudSuite versus on-prem, hosted, and working with the need for managed services, it's really hard for any one firm to know everything about Infor OS. If you can join our last session of the day, you'll understand more about this confusion, and I hope you can join that. So that being said, the description of the session has a lot to say. Infor OS is so much more than just a replacement for Infor Mingle 11, more than just a user interface. In fact, Infor calls Infor OS a user experience product. That means it can be used simply as a replacement for Infor Mingle 11, and a replacement for Infor Federation services. It can also be used as a full organization user portal and adapt most of your single sign-on products, whether Infor product or other third-party product, into a single page. Infor OS provides for Infor product user maintenance with the ION VODs or business object documents, provides for data warehousing and dashboards, and some reports with Data Lake and Burst, security token services to allow authentication through Infor OS, and you've maybe heard the term Infor OS as STS, integration with third-party non-Infor products. It can even do some pre-thinking for you with Coleman AI. And so there are a lot of things this product can do. I think the designers of Infor OS went down to the corner bells and whistles store and just loaded up their cart. It seems that Infor OS as a user experience product can do as little as you need it to do, or it can do as much as you want it to do. So you can start within a week or so of having just the basics of the product running, and then spend the remainder of your Infor-related career designing and developing more and more complex and informative and interactive pages. So how about a screenshot or two? So what we have here is just a very, very basic screen. This is one I recently designed, super difficult screen. Took all of a few minutes. And so what you have here is your basic login screen with a couple different ways you can get to the Infor Lawson S3. And so click either one of those and everything's set up correctly on your S3 side, and it's going to take you right in because you're already signed in to Infor OS. So it's going to log you right in and pull up the screen. If you haven't seen the new Lawson S3 portal version 10.1 instead of the 10.0, the 10.1 looks a lot like this, so the look and feel is going to be very similar. As soon as I would click and go into there, which I'm not going to show you right now, it would actually look just like the InforOS screen. Let's do a little more complex screen. And so I added a few other elements to the screen. Yes, that is an embedded website inside a web page. I realize you don't really need a page in a page since you're actually in a browser. However, think about a specifically designed corporate page that gives you information for the day. Can be user specific since you're signed in to the browser and the browser knows who you are. And so in this case here, our JK Seva page is up here at jkseva.com if you want to go check that out. I added actually an animated GIF here, so those guys are actually jumping up and down, giving a high five. The same menu item is on there, only have one. I can add dozens or hundreds. And there's a little area for notes. I mean, you can type whatever you need to in there. Again, these are just a few of the widgets available. There are, I actually didn't count them. I'm going to guess about 100, maybe more. And you have the opportunity to write your own. And so there is a programming language that's set out there where you can design your own widgets to do really whatever you need to. So one more page I'm going to show you as a more complex page. Yes, the Infor Concierge page. This was designed and developed with InforOS. And so everything you see whenever you jump into the Concierge page that Infor put out there is InforOS at its best. So there are many, many more things you can do with this. I'm not going to get into how all of those work. I was going to show a customer-specific page that had some burst embedded in it with some KPIs and some reports that can be run, but that's all covered under non-disclosure agreements, so I actually couldn't do that. However, this is a really good sample of what it looks like. All right, that being said, we've talked about LDAP-S, and it's totally unrelated to InforOS, but required if you're using Microsoft LDAP products and recommended if you're using IBM's LDAP products. We know InforOS has been around for almost 7 years. It's been around for 7 years and nobody really is using it or knows much about it. And it's definitely not being used to its full potential. InforOS is mostly new to us here in the US, and everyone is still learning what it can do. And developing some best practices for implementation utilization. So we're trying to figure out what we can recommend to our clients and our partners on best practices. So there isn't really a best practices document yet.